Hello, 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 everybody. It's me, Sean Bischoff. I'm your host, the general manager of Triumph. This is episode 11 of Together. I can't believe we've already made it to episode 11. I can't believe I've been doing this freaking show for 3 months. You noticed I'm in a new room. It's because I'm in a new apartment. I would like to tell you it's because the show has been doing so well that I bought a new mansion. But the truth is I had water damage in my old apartment, and that's what it is. And we like to keep it real on this show. But despite being in a new apartment, you'll notice I also still have the same old Respawn chair. So take a moment during this podcast. Make sure to go check out respawnproducts.com. Check out their chairs, check out their desks. If you want to buy a chair, if you need to upgrade your setup, use code Triumph, get yourself 10% off. It's free. The chair's not free. The code's free. Today, I have a very cool guest, someone that I'm really excited to catch up with. I say that about everybody, but I genuinely mean it with this guy. He's a friend of mine. His name is Gannon Nelson, otherwise known as RaptorZ. Worked with him in the past. Been a long time since we talked. He is the head coach of Moon Raccoons Valorant. And without further ado, let's just jump into the show. Gannon, what's up, brother?
Not much. It's been a crazy last couple of months, especially since the game fully came out. And it's really good to catch up with you. And I'm really excited to be on the podcast and just chalk it out. So thank you for having me on.
Of course, dude. I'm so excited, man. We haven't talked really. Like we've exchanged messages a few times talking about Valorant, but like we haven't really talked in over a year since Legion. So I just really wanted to catch up and find out like what you've been up to, dude. Like what's your journey been like in the last year since well, you know what, maybe the best way is to just give a little bit of backstory on yourself or where you come from, because I know you're not the type of guy that, talks too much online and stuff. So give an opportunity for people to know a little bit more about you.
No, 100%. I come from Overwatch background before getting into Valorant. Before then, it's kind of a mixed background of Dota, StarCraft, other FPSs, mainly arena shooters, which is where the Overwatch comes in. Worked with Overwatch for 4 years, really, and then towards the end of when Legion was dropped, and of course, that's all public information, what had happened there and everything that gone down due to funding and stuff. At that point, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to continue in Overwatch, if I wanted to branch out. So I kind of sat around for a couple of months and looked at my options and really, really was happy with Valorant and everything that they were doing, they were talking about. And when it came out and I got the beta key, it's kind of just been history since, I got started working with a couple of players, bounced around, and then now found a couple of players I really enjoy working with. One I've built multiple rosters with, which is Rebo, and been just kind of going about there, gaining knowledge. Because that's a big thing for me too, is that going from MOBAs and arena shooters to a tactical shooter, I know I have a lot to learn. So I've been trying to make sure that I'm catching up as quickly as possible and, getting on that same level as a lot of these CS players who are coming from, 10, 20 years of gaming the same game. A lot of concepts really do just translate one-to-one, whereas some concepts are really just come from Overwatch or, the abilities. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been a journey to say the least, just because it has been, a big shift in style of coaching. There's been a lot of differences I've had to learn.
Yeah. Like when Valorant first came out, man, I was one of the first people that was like, oh, this is going to be the next big esport. It obviously took a little while for it to get to where it is now. Now, like I work in CS every day, so I could tell you like the majority of CS players in tier 2 CS have gone to Valorant. So it was interesting when I was first, sitting in Valorant lobbies when I was trying to build a team back in, what month did the game come out? Like June, May?
Oh God, it would have been May or June is when. Yeah, I don't remember exactly because I thought that was like a week or two blur where I was just gaming. So it just gotten the key. So
it's been quite a while now, and back then, I realized like, oh, this is actually like the perfect FPS transitional game from a MOBA or from Overwatch, because like Overwatch it feels like to me that Overwatch was so much more about the characters and the skills rather than the actual mechanics of FPS. For you as a coach, you say that you've had to learn a lot, like switching to a game like this. What are the key differences you think so far in coaching a game like Overwatch or even a MOBA versus Valorant?
I would say FPS wise, there hasn't been like too much. A lot of it does end up applying the same. Like when you do remove a lot of like the Brigitte or like the battle or brawl style comps in Overwatch, you do get a lot to the FPS mechanics, angle choice, crossfire setups, pincers, timings in terms of, when they cross an angle so you can get the flank. These kinds of things, they still apply pretty closely, but obviously it is in a different environment. So learning I guess the flow of how they apply has been the big difference for me. So the pacing within a round, when these kind of timings are more important than team play, because there are those instances, of course, where if you can get that flank, you can get that timing, you can get that play, you should be going for it 10 times out of 10, right? Whereas in Overwatch, it's like, well, that's not a part of the team fight. You need to be playing in the team fight. You need to be doing this team fight focus. You need to be playing your abilities to this. And I'd say the other side of it too is also communication, because Overwatch is arena shooters are always going to have a higher communication threshold in terms of like nonstop update communication, because there is so much going on visually and ability wise. Whereas Valorant, the communication need is in moments incredibly high. And then in other moments, it's about knowing when you don't need to bring something up, right? And so creating that communication structure, rather than being about nonstop effective command calls, confirmation calls, about consistent command calls and confirmation calls that don't go overboard, but also are balanced such that all the players are on the same page, right? Because that is the hardest part of any team game, right? Is players being on the same page. Human beings being on the same page is always difficult, no matter how much you work towards it. People are always going to have a different perspective or whatever. So that's kind of been where I've had the biggest adjustment, is just the nuances of how the concepts apply, but mostly all the concepts have applied for me. Actually, I'd say the biggest one is probably VOD review not being as important. And what I mean by that is you spend a lot more time in customs and in servers. Obviously in Overwatch, you'd spend 1-2 hours a day reviewing previous games. That would be the main focus. And it's not like we don't do review. It's still actively incorporated into our scheduling. But we're spending more time than not on a custom server talking about what we're going to do in the map or setting up a new play, rather than reviewing or critiquing, right? Because there's always a new play. There's always a new setup. And reviewing is more about fixing. Customs is about adding. And there's a lot of adding in this game.
Yeah, I wonder how that'll change over time. Like, I wonder if, like, once the game's been out 5 years, if you will do more bot review. Maybe the only reason you don't have to do as much bot review now is because people really don't know how to play the game yet. It's only been 6 months. So
no, it's very true. A lot of adding. Like, it's always like, well, we could review this, or well, let's just make our own. Like, let's just
make our own.
Yeah, exactly. So you're definitely right on that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So dude, the last time that we worked together was December of 2019. So it's been over a year. And I know that immediately after Legion got dropped, and so for anybody that doesn't know, I guess, basically Legion was LAG's Overwatch League Academy team in Contenders. And the last thing that you and I did together, we went to Korea together. I talk about it all the time because it was like the last event I got to go to before COVID.
Yeah, it's true, actually. It's the last thing that really happened for almost a lot of us in that part of the scene.
The league wasn't doing very well, and I think that our team had a really high budget, and so we ended up getting sort of our division dropped, and it kind of put us in an awkward position immediately after I joined Triumph. Originally when I joined Triumph, of course, I was just a team manager for the Overwatch team. And I remember at the time, I was asking you, like, well, what the hell are you going to do, dude? Because, you've been coaching since day one of Overwatch, right? You were day one. Like, when did you join Complexity?
So I was casting for 6 months, 5 to 6 months, doing content creation casting before Complexity reached out to me. So yeah, I mean, it's basically been day one in terms of coach, but I would say I've been there since day one in Overwatch, but coaching wise, it was about year one is the best way to say it.
Okay. Yeah, because for someone like you, I was like, man, there's no way that you don't get another coaching job. And I know you were looking at other coaching opportunities. So what was the decision-making process like for you at the time in the winter after LAG to look at Overwatch opportunities, but then also put yourself on hold and look at Valorant? Like, what was that process like for you?
Well, I had a couple opportunities that I'd gone through tryouts for. And during those tryouts, I'd kind of sat there, and I enjoy Overwatch still. I mean, it's not like games just completely disappear in terms of like, oh, I'm never going to enjoy this again. But in terms of, oh, this is the game I want to watch. This is the game I want to study. This is a game that I really have that spark for. It wasn't there. And when I was in those tryouts, I really felt that. And I was sitting there thinking, well, at the end of the day, there is a lot of issues going on with the structure, with a lot of other factors. And in terms of player enjoyment, engagement, these kinds of things factored in with my personal side of it, I was like, well, I'm not going to be regretting my entire life if I just go out and continue to try to do what I've been doing from the beginning, which is, seek my enjoyment, seek my fulfillment, and try to be the best person I can. And Valorant really felt like the best option for that. So during those tryouts, I was really feeling it out. And towards the end, I was like, well, I have the capital to, bridge the gap between the situations. So I'm going to go ahead and take the risk. And since then, I've been fully committed into Valorant just because primarily I enjoy it more. I've been playing it in a lot more than I played Overwatch in terms of ranked and stuff like that. And although I'd spent a lot of time playing ranked in Overwatch and eventually grinding up into Grandmaster and stuff like that, a lot of my time was spent watching the game. And Valorant, there's been a nice mix where I actually kind of like playing it a little bit more than watching it, which is dangerous as a coach because, I do need to be spending more time watching than playing. But at the same time, that helps me continue to be very, how do I say, like I guess a positive a spark in team conversations and in strategy talks. No matter what we're talking about, I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's look at this player's idea instead. I'm always trying to be a part of that idea generation. So for me, it was really an enjoyment based thing. Is really what it came down to. And that obviously is comboed with like the reality of it. I do think that at least for the position I was in, I was not getting offered OWL head coaching positions. And, I do not want to be an analyst in OWL and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I'll just go over into Valorant. And so far I've been really enjoying it. And I mean, I feel like for what we've accomplished and a lot and over the last couple of months, specifically with like the Moon Raccoons brand, stuff like that, I've really enjoyed it. And it's been something that has been a project I'm never going to forget because it came from us. It's all stuff we've done, right? And it's been a lot of fun rather than with the Overwatch. I started with complexity into Gladiators, right? This is the first time I really went from no team to building and being participating in that rather than coming in from the caster commentator side and getting the position through the content I created.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Yeah, I think you and I both agree that you have to love what you do. You can't just keep you can't just stay in a game because 100%. It's a job. Yeah, and I also think that if you want to coach at a high level, you have to understand the game by playing it. So it's okay to play the game, especially at this stage. Like we already talked about and touched on, it's less VOD review, more creating. It's like, I think at this stage in the game, in the first year of the game being out, as a coach, it's really important for you to be playing ranked a lot so that you can actually learn the game at the same time your players are learning the game, right? So yeah, that makes sense to me. I think it was a wise move on your part, I was really like upset to not see you around for a while, but seeing you back in action in Valorant's been cool, and I've been following your guys' stories. So I guess that brings me to the major topic that I really want to learn about, dude, is Moon Raccoons. Can you tell me like how that started? I know it wasn't a day one Valorant thing. Like at what point did you start building the team with Rebo, and at what point did you decide on Moon Raccoons, and how does that even come to fruition?
So I guess procedurally, again, I'd started working with Rebo pretty early on. In one of the first teams I'd worked with, he was the IGL4 and captain, and I'd really enjoyed working with him. He's a amazing leader, and that's one of the biggest reasons I really do enjoy working with him, and I love building the rosters with him. It is very difficult. I mean, it's something you've been in esports a long time. IGLs that are actual leaders really want to be that beacon for the team and really want to be a supportive member of the team. Like it's hard to find. It's hard to find that kind of person who is willing to be a true leader versus just willing to speak up in the game. And Rebo really exemplifies that. So when we were working with 303 for a while on that roster, and things had come to a point where some players wanted to go a different direction. A couple of players had some IRL obligations. So we were like, well, let's just go ahead and kind of look around all our own directions, kind of look around. And towards the end of it, me and Rebo were like, well, we just want to build our own roster. We just want to take the field we have, the accomplishments we had with 303 at the time, because we had definitely established strongly into the tier 2 scene. We had solid matches versus Gen G, solid matches versus TSM, etc. We hadn't won those, but enough that obviously people wanted to play and try out. And in amongst the T2 scene, we were very much competitive with everyone or taking matches. So when Moon Raccoons, or when we got into that process, we did a full tryout. What you would expect from a franchised league, interview processes, multiple week-long tryout, into trials, and we had done that for every single position and really built out the first iteration of the Moon Raccoons roster from the ground up. And that roster had a lot of success in terms of placing in top 4 in tournaments. And again, life has its way. During that first iteration of Moon Raccoons, unfortunately, a couple of people had school come up and life come up. So that's why there's the first and second iteration. But during the first iteration is where the name came from. And it's kind of we were just sitting down and talking with each other, and we're like, man, we need a name. And I was like, well, we should just go with like the basic naming scheme that everyone does that likes, like laser kittens, bazooka puppies. You just take a cute animal, right, and you put a random, adjective with it. And then out of nowhere, we got onto raccoons, and someone's like, Moon Raccoons, raccoons on the moon. And we're like, I mean, yeah, it's funny. Okay, it's kind of confusing, enough that people will think about it, because they're like, why moon? Why raccoons on the moon? And that's the point, right? Is you sat there and you asked yourself why. Well, now you kind of remembered us a little bit more, right? So that's kind of the process and the goal of it. Same thing with the bazooka puppies, the laser kittens, is it's just like kind of catches you off guard because it's cute and funny at the same time. And so we went into the second iteration where we really wanted to continue to do what we had done with the first one, but continue to improve longevity. So Rebo and I had gone through. Rebo had a couple of people that he wanted to work with, and it would end up being that me and Rebo would end up working with Temperature and Alex, as well as Fiend. Then that would form the 4 core. That would be the main core of the roster. And since then, for the last 2 months, we've been filling in the final piece. First, Sean, and Sean ended up going to Gen G. That was a mutual decision. Every single player who's left the team, it's been a mutual decision. He's been enjoying his time on Gen G and definitely been playing well. And he's been able to really play the duelist role, whereas he was playing the Sova and doing very well for us on that. Gen G has got him on the duelist. He's doing very well on that. Profi, most recently, Space Station just acquired him. And again, mutual terms, absolutely amazing player. We're really happy for Profi. We even got to have a bit of a grudge match recently, which was nice. The players, I mean, that's the fun part when you get to play your friends, right? So it was a close match. We had a lot of fun, especially on the Haven. And yeah, so for there, it's just been kind of a process of rebuilding, because without that full financial support that we have been actively looking for, it is a thing where a couple of the players have had to leave due to financial reasons, or in the case of the first iteration, right, it was school or life. But ultimately, no matter what, every single setback, the rankings, what we've done, what we seek to accomplish. But yeah, we've consistently pushed it up. And part of that is really the core of the team, or the goal of the team is a balance of being the best players and trying to create a dynasty and be at the top, while also not sacrificing who we are and having fun, right? Like, it's something a lot of the team can be boiled down into kind of a statement that No Tail made at one point at a TI, which was basically, if you forget why you wake up and play the game, you're not going to have fun. You're not going to belong there. You're going to hate it. You're going to play bad, whatever it may be. But if you wake up every day and it's the same reason why you did it day one, you're going to be a monster. You're going to love what you're doing. You're going to love your team. And so that's what we really try to push, is just enjoying the game at all junctures. So matches for us and games for us are about fun, which means, well, if we win or lose, it doesn't matter as long as we do it together. If we feed or we slay, it doesn't matter as long as we do it together. As long as we actively do it as a team, communicate as a team, play as a team, and just try to get the job done best we can, doesn't matter, right? And that's what we do every single day on the field, in practice, and scrims and customs. And that's been something that's been consistent from kind of the ideas in 303 to this idea is the core of Moon Raccoons, and it's been consistent across the roster from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful journey, dude. And that philosophy will get you through a lot of shit,
Yeah, we had our fair share so far. So
yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely like there's pros and cons to being in a position like yours with your team, rather than being, working for like a larger organization and building for them. It's like when you get to build your own brand and build your own identity as a team, there are a lot of positives to that. And it is like something that is pretty much, it's irreplaceable in a way. If you have a real philosophy that you build your team behind, and you build your own brand, and you get to have the personality that you want to have, and create merch that you want to have, and create a name for yourselves. You guys are one of the only teams, I believe, in the top 20-ish in North America that you're one of like 2 or 3 teams that are unsigned right now, right?
Yes. And at the peak during First Strike, because we've partially due to tryouts, again, same process. We always want to make sure we take it professionally. We give the tryouts their fair interviews, multiple days, and also make sure that it's the right fit for us, right? There's a lot of process to that isn't just like oh, you played good, let's have you on the team. Like I really hate when teams approach it like that. There's really a process that needs to be done. And so we've been rebuilding since the Profi, since the last event we played in with Profi, and a lot of it is, where we're at in the rankings has been a result of that kind of ebb and flow of the roster where we're getting that last piece. But when we are able to sit down and grind, we peaked up at number 8 when we were before we had lost to TSM in the close. So really, I think that is proof of concept as well. Like it's a matter of us just getting settled down, right, and getting into the right place. And if we can do top 8 with, without the support, right, with just what we have inside, right, then there's definitely a lot of future ahead. And we also, one thing we truly believe is that no matter what happens in a team, and this is something I've kind of actually, Rebo has been one who's actually really, this is his philosophy that I've, I guess the right word is taken, but kind of taken into my own head, is no matter what happens to your team, if you focus on the process and what you're doing, you will always build a better roster, right? And it's not to say that you're removing bad players or, any of the players that have left the team have been bad players. No, they've all been great. I would love to have kept them and played with them. But at the end of the day, life happens. People got to make decisions. And as long as that decision was the best for them, then we will make the best decision for us and find that next right piece. It'll happen. It's just a matter of time, right? So that approach has really helped us a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys have done pretty much everything right. At this point, like, you guys have made a lot of noise. Like I said to you, like, I had to catch up with you because I was so impressed with your guys' project. So something that you're doing is right, obviously, amidst all the different iterations and the roster moves. And, I touched a little bit on like the pros of building your own team and your own brand in a way, but there's also cons, which
yes,
one of the biggest cons to running your own team, like unsigned team, is losing players. Like, if you're doing things right, you're going to lose players to big teams. You're going to lose players to contracts, for Gen G or for Space Station, right? Like, this is an inevitability. It's like, if you guys have good players on your team and they need to pay their bills, like, it's going to happen. Yeah. And it's definitely hard to, even Triumph, we go through that in CS. It's happened to us multiple times where we've lost incredible players that were part of our team to bigger opportunities like Liquid and Furia. But if the thing is, it's like, if you're doing your job right, that's going to happen. And you have to be able to anticipate that and be ready for it when it happens. And I suppose the only way to really be ready is to have a really strong philosophy that you build your team around. Just seems like you guys have.
No, 100%. Like you said, that the kind of, this has been a different approach for me because my goal has been to build the roster to stay together. Whereas Legion, my approach was exactly what you were saying, because I felt good at the end of the day when the players went on to OWL. I wanted to win contenders, sure, but at the end of the day, if I got 6 players into OWL that season or that year, I did my job. Like, I don't care about the contenders win. I care about them getting their careers and going forward and being productive with, because that's my job. I'm an academy coach. That is the purpose, right? And I really enjoyed that purpose. Whereas here, it's kind of been nice where that element still exists. You're right, because we are unsigned. There's also been a strong camaraderie throughout the team, because there has been a couple opportunities throughout the last couple of months that the players or I have had to say no to or decided to say no to out of respect to what we're building, right? So there's an ebb and flow to it, but you are 100% right. It's both nice to see that, but it is also kind of the devil in the closet that we deal with every day. Is like, okay, well, we don't have that to offer yet. We're trying to get that's what we want, but until then, it's kind of a situation where if that's what they need, that's what they need. And so be it. Again, what I tell a lot of the players is, if it comes to it and Moon Raccoons and what we built, we end up going through multiple iterations, multiple players. Well, when we get to Valorant Pro League, we'll just have a bunch of friends on the stage, right? LANs and the tournaments are just going to be fun, right? It's a lot more fun when your buddies are on the other side and you get to enjoy slaying them, making fun of them, right? They get to make fun of you, maybe a little teabagging, whatever it may be. It just makes it more fun for the crowd, the players, everyone involved. So there's nothing wrong with the process that happens when players leave as well.
Yeah, it is just part of the process too, right? It's just like, it is the way it is. And if you're doing things respectably and you have the right philosophy within your team, when you do get to the LAN, like you said, like, all the teams are going to be like fist bumping each other, going out to eat. And, you guys, it's all, the community is going to be real tight, if you're like, there's really no other way to do it. And it just is one of the cons that happens. And of course, like, you want to keep people together so that you can climb the ranks. And, the longer you're together, the better you're going to be as a team. But it just is, what did you call it? The devil in the closet? That's like such an old person statement you just made.
Sometimes it's happening. I mean, that's why I get the boomer joke a few times. 22, 23, 24. I mean, Emil now coaching Nip. He's doing great. But like on this team, everyone's 19, 20, 21 is the oldest. So it's like when I say something like that, it's immediately like,
oh, dude, yeah.
What are you? What? No.
I can only imagine what the locker room's like with you at the head of a bunch of 20-year-olds, man. For those who don't know, Raptors is like the dad joke king, man.
I've had to refrain. It's more trying to make humor with the like kind of join their humor. It's something, and that also in and of itself becomes funny because it's like, oh, you got the old man trying to, make the young jokes or, whatever it may be. So I don't know. We've had a fun environment, and it's definitely been one that, I don't know, the players have really enjoyed, and we've all really enjoyed. Like to say that it's been nice to be in an environment where matches, even after losses, like everyone's hanging out, laughing, having a good time, because we generally accomplish our goals, even in the losses, right? Even in the matches that we don't do well. And when we do well, I mean, the energy is, it's unforgettable. So.
Yeah. I mean, how is the locker room for you guys this week? Obviously this is going to come out on Tuesday, so you guys have an event this weekend, which we can't talk about because it hasn't happened yet. But you guys played the Nerd Street events a couple days ago, and kind of alluded to when you played Profi and stuff. I mean, how'd you guys feel after that? I know you kind of were playing with the ringer with Ryan. I don't know if you were really like trialing Ryan for a long time prior to that event or not, but how'd you guys feel about that event?
So the truth of the story, no excuses. I will never look at it that way, and I don't think anyone should. But the reality of the situation is we had just come out of tryouts. We had made our decision on the fourth day before the event because, again, balancing the process versus making sure we're ready for the event was kind of what we were playing. And we kind of came to the decision that while we want to be competitive in the event, ultimately succeeding in this event, if it's at the cost of challengers, it's not worth it, right? So we made sure that the tryout process was effective. We had basically 3 full days with Ryan. 1 day was more customs, following through with a lot of what we had already been working on. And then we went into 2 days of actual scrims with him. And right now the process is he is under trial with us. But yeah, so that we had a limited amount of time going into it. But our goal as a team was not to go in to win. I made it clear, like, look, if we play our best game, there's a world where we do very well in the tournament, top 4, potentially top 2, win, right? Like that always exists, right? But our goal in this tournament, like I had kind of alluded to, is we need to prepare for challengers, right? Challengers, masters, Champions Tour. This is the big stuff this year. And we need to make sure that the roster, as we're moving through this period where a lot of teams are making a lot of roster changes because Challengers is coming up and they're not happy with their performances or whatever, right? There's a lot of these moving pieces. And so as a result, our focus is building that. So our goal was not to, like I said, not to win. Our goal was to make sure that the process was good, the communication was good, the strategy was good. And we had a couple of moments, where, inexperience as a team happened, individuals made mistakes, life's going to happen and no one's perfect. But what happened in that match on the comm side, on our side, was we accomplished our goals, right? Our communication on the maps that we had really spent the time, Haven, it really showed. Our strategy was more on point. People were quickly establishing plans with each other, quickly establishing plans off of what had happened in the round or the information. And we were flowing in an attempt to consistently establish our game plan and advance it, right? Be proactive. And so overall, we were very happy with it. That being said, obviously, getting out of groups is not something to be happy with. So it's not the performance that we're happy with. It's more so the process that we're going through. So that kind of is also supposed to be more toward an answer of what you were getting at with Ryan, because he is on that trial. But we really enjoyed working with him in the tournament, and we're looking forward to the next couple of days as we've been going through more customs, more scrims, and continuing to work it out with him. Because again, we'd only been playing with him 3 days plus 1 day in a tournament. So any effective trial or any effective position where you're I guess trial, even in real life, it's a trial position, right? They're not going to do it in like 3 days, right? They're not going to be like instantly, right? So there's a process that has to happen where he knows it's the right team that he wants to play with, and he's the right player for us. So yeah, that's kind of like the longer version of it, is that we didn't have as much time as we'd like, given Profi going over to SSG, and that's fine. That was all on good terms. That was all handled very maturely. holiday season happened. We had to get our tryouts done, and we got it done, and we're happy with the result. The end effect, though, was that we were limited on prep time going into the tournament. And again, that's for us, that was not our goal. Our goal is challengers right now.
Right. No, I mean, I guess it's expected. It's good that at the very least you guys had goals to improve, understanding that challenges is the biggest thing. I guess that leads into the next question, because I want to learn a little bit just because I've only followed the Valorant structure, the new Valorant structure a little bit, frankly, to be honest with you, just because we don't have a Valorant team. So I'm curious of your thoughts on like the new, what do they call it, the Champs Tour and Challengers, Masters and everything. What do you think about this structure? Do you think it's like a good way? Do you think that a good way to build Valorant? Do you think that it's going to be temporary? Do you expect them to lean into a franchise league like League of Legends or not? I mean, how do you feel about this structure?
I would say with what they've done, it would be pretty crazy not to at least like either use the information from this whole series or use it as a actual structure going into franchising, because what they have given us, the roadmap is incredibly in depth. I mean, it's what we were dealing with in Contenders. It's what we were dealing with in OWL. Like they have the same structure as franchise leagues and a non-franchised tour. So I do really expect them to. And I also think that League is a clear, how do I say, roadmap for them in terms of they've been really effective at working at community building. Like their approach is smaller asking prices and really actively working with those orgs and having those orgs actively work back into the league. And so the capital of the overall LCS franchising has really grown over the last couple of years, right? So I think that they're seeing that, and that they do want Valorant to do off of that, or build off of that as well. In terms of the actual like tour, I think it's really well done. Again, it reminds me a lot of effective early ideas with with Contenders or with just good tournament structures, or when you look at leagues. But basically, it's a multi-tier feeding system where it's like the Challengers is purely regional. So when we're playing at Challengers in the month, it'll purely be North America and Mexico, Canada, our region. And within that, we'll be playing qualifiers. There will be one every single week. And depending on how you do in those, if you make top 4, I believe it is, then you get to automatically qualify for the next one. So there's no invites. You have to, every single team, Sentinels, TSM, Moon Raccoons, tier 2 teams, a tier 3 team, a pickup team, they all have to do it the same, right? They have to go from the qualifier and do it themselves. So if you get that top 4 spot, you can continue on, or if you win, you qualify for the end of the Challenger series, like Challenger Cup, right? And that's obviously qualified only, and that will be awarding spots to the Masters Tour. And the Masters Tour is where they'll be giving like circuit points, or like I guess the only system that I know that's similar is like Dota, where there's the Dota Pro circuit, and depending on your placement in events, you get points. Well, depending on your placement in Masters events, you get points, and then the certain number of teams per region based on population of the region will get into Champions League based on those points. And then I believe in the schedule, they also have slotted towards the end some qualifiers for champions specifically, which is kind of like, okay, we got our main group in through points. Let's get one from each region or each major region in at last moment, or like as like a last spot qualifier. So there's tournament play all throughout the year. We don't, at least I haven't looked into it personally because it doesn't concern me as much, but for investors, for fans, for just the idea, I'm pretty sure that the funding for these tournaments is going to be quite exceptional. In terms of Challengers will probably be a little bit smaller scope, but I believe that they have said in interviews, or at least like kind of the diction I've gotten, is that they really want the Masters to be kind of equivalent to majors. And by that logic, Champions is Worlds, right? So Champions is going to be big. It's going to be a lot of production. So yeah, I for comparing it to my experience with Overwatch year before OWL was like, we're done. We're going to do maybe 1-2 contenders. I think they had contender season 0 and like one other sponsored event. And then they cut all tournament license and they were like, no, we're done. Whereas Riot is really like, okay, we liked what you guys did. We had these Ignition series, these 25Ks, 50Ks. Now it's our turn. We're going to take the data you gave us. They're working, Nerd Street Gamers, who is the one who's hosted a lot of these tournaments that we played in, they're doing the Challenger series. So Riot's really working with it. So, I mean, pretty much every talking point, there's a lot of positivity, at least from me as somebody working in the industry with them, or like, them being functionally in some way responsible for my paycheck. If they didn't make the game, I wouldn't be able to get paid, right? So there is a response, like there's a relationship there, and I feel like they're definitely tending to it really effectively, and they're also looking at it towards the approach of sustainability, and I value that a lot personally, because at the end of the day, this is an entertainment industry. At the end of the day, this is a competitive industry. Sustainability needs to be there, right? And right. It's not just for the players, it's not just for the staff, it's for the esport. And multiple esports that have tried to go too far too fast really hit that. So I like that they're not immediately franchising. I like that they have this really extensive circuit system. And the thing is that in between each Challenger series, the gaps in between are completely open to be scheduled, as far as I understand, for third parties, or at least like they want to encourage third parties still. Yeah. So it's like, well, if that's the case, and I understand what I've heard correctly from other people, then, you know, what's going wrong here is really for me, the question, right? And I've had yet to find a really good answer. It seems like it's all going right. Now, who knows what could happen in the future? You know, I'm going to plan for the worst and hope for the best, but right now it's looking really good. And so that's kind of like the breakdown of it, to my understanding. And to answer, like I said at the beginning, I do think with all of this, it'd be pretty crazy for them not to want to get into franchising, because the amount of effort they are putting right now is a huge foundational establishment to the competitive integrity going into the Valorant Pro League, which Al kind of missed. There wasn't that all the top teams were already playing each other. All the top players were already playing each other. There wasn't the stories and the hype built up. Now going into it, you're going to have stories from all of this year, if they do franchising next year or the year after, where it's like, man, you remember last year's Champions Tour? Like, he got picked up by so-and-so's franchise. Like that's going to generate a lot of discussion as well. So,
yeah, no, I agree with a lot of your points, man. I think one thing that they've done really well so far is at the very least listen to the community and sort of reward, tournament organizers that are putting the effort. Like, for instance, you bring up Nerd Street. We both brought them up at some point in this podcast, because they put on some of the best tournaments so far, certainly the best tournaments in North America, right? So for them to then, to do that and then get sort of like a reward from Riot to continue to be able to work with Riot to run tournaments through the year, it means Riot's listening, whereas other game developers don't necessarily take that approach. And certainly the structure this year seems good. My only concern with like going into franchising would be the merit on the teams that get into the franchising system. Now, League of Legends, of course, they have a franchise system that I think is better than the Overwatch League or the CDL, because it seems more based on merit, because it kind of you have instead of regionalizing the teams or whatever, having geolocating teams, you do have like some sort of qualifying guidelines, whereas as you know, in Overwatch League, there's really no qualifying guidelines. Once the league existed, it was like friends were just kind of picking up friends, and there wasn't really a lot of merit on getting into the league.
All about the money,
right? So my concern for this game, for Valorant, would be like, moving forward, if they do switch to franchising, which I guess you and I both agree they probably will, because it's Riot. I just hope that they don't like screw over a bunch of teams that are like a bunch of the top 10, top 20 teams when the time comes, and like, give the franchise slots to some random teams or something like that, or some random companies, I don't know.
For sure. No, I definitely feel the same. And I hope that they do still, even with, because like the thing is now they have LCS, Valorant is gaining success. I mean, it's fair to say that while the discussion at the beginning was, Valorant versus CS, which one's going to die, which one's going to live, now that discussion's kind of completely passed, and it's their own games. People have kind of moved past that. Now Valorant's on the new patch 2.0, new agent. Things are looking really up. I really do hope that they approach it from the grassroots still, which they seem to be even from the beginning. Like, no matter how big Riot is with League, Valorant's been treated kind of grassroots from the beginning. At least that's kind of how it's felt. Like, they really do care. So I hope that they do keep it. I believe that the buy-ins for League of Legends at the beginning were like 1-2 million. They were not hyper expensive. They weren't the rumored 5 to 10 mil first year, 15 to 20 mil second year for not for Call of Duty, for Overwatch, right? So I definitely hope they do the same, because that also just fosters a better environment where there's competition amongst orgs too. And that's the thing too, right? Is that there needs to be that. So it's not just, who has $20 million gets the spot, right? There is a relationship outside of the capital that generates capital.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I mean, I would think so. It seems like you say, to your point, it definitely seems that Riot's moving in that direction of like rewarding merit, rewarding the community in a sort of a grassroots way. So hopefully they continue down that path. Um, I guess that leads into my next thought, which would be like the dominant region. We kind of brought up like the champ series or the world series, and like how many slots will come from different regions. Like right now, I'm a little bit surprised. It seems to me that the North American region seems to be the most dominant region in Valorant. I think when the game first came out, everyone anticipated the EU would be the most dominant region, mainly because of Counter-Strike. Obviously, CS EU is certainly the most dominant region.
Oh, yeah.
And in Valorant, does it seem like NA is doing better? Is it just still hard to tell because there's no international competitions?
It's definitely hard to tell. I will say the one thing is there's still the same depth of teams in EU, and that is a perception. If you watch EU or you watch NA, that you're only going to see a lot of talk about the top 4 or 6, whatever teams. There is still that depth, like within the NA scene. There's still, if you hosted a 32 team tournament, it would be competitive, very competitive. Same thing with EU. With Korea, though, to kind of get that out of the discussion, they're in a separate boat where they don't have that same depth right now. Vision Strikers is just far and beyond above everyone else right now, in terms of set plays, in terms of just tactical FPS knowledge, and in the sense of how they flow as a team. So Korea, I always kind of leave out of the discussion because Vision Strikers is a discussion. The region itself is from at least an analytical standpoint, objectively worse than NA and EU right now, right? But Vision Striker is very much competitive, no questions. Absolute Jupiter is still competitive, but as you start to move down the totem pole in Korea, the gap is there. NA, it's not the same. EU, it's not the same, right? There is a lot of top competitive. I mean, we even saw in the most recent first strike for EU, it was I'm blanking on the team name, but they made a run up into finals, beating G2 and another team, and so there is that I think it was Liquid, but it was the ability to actually be a tier 2 team and make that rise. So that's there. I think right now, my gut goes to NA, and the only reason that I say that is partially NA bias. Of course, I am an NA. I would like it to be better, but NA is trying to play the game towards a tempo style, and towards a aggression style, and as I have studied games, Overwatch, other Dota, now Valorant, even CS. In CS, the only real example of this is Furia right now, because a lot of other teams have shifted towards the Astrala style. But at the end of the day, if you are aggressive, you take the control of the situation, and you are the one choosing when the fight happens, then those put together means you make the first move, what their second move is, so you can make the third move faster, right? So you take control, the proactiveness, and you can get into a lot of the concepts and dig into that. So NA is playing more aggressive, double duelist, triple duelist. Now it's kind of shifting away as new patches happen, Breach is becoming more popular, but that was really there. And as a result, NA is good at pushing the map space, good at taking control of stuff, punishing you, whereas EU is not going to be as punishing, but they're also not going to be as often giving you opportunities, right? And it's the whole ebb and flow of if you play to win versus playing not to lose, right? So if you're playing to win, you're naturally making mistakes, because the difference between a literal $1 million clip on a finals versus him just completely whiffing is literally one moment in space and time, right? It's just one moment of something happening in that play. And that's where, that freedom comes. So I think NA has a little bit of an edge, because especially I know, and a couple other teams are pushing that, where it's like, just take the fights, just do it. Like, get out there, get the experience on the server, don't care. Because in 2 months, 6 months, that's going to be useful. Whereas if you kind of play to be perfect or ideal from the beginning, you're going to not know where those bounds exist. So that's kind of where I see the difference could be evolving. That being said, it could go to LAN, and I could be completely wrong, and EU could just, kind of draw a line in the sand and be like, well, good luck crossing it. And every single time an NA team crosses it, they get slapped, right? So that could happen. But I feel like from what I've understood, we are being more proactive. We are getting more out of the map because we are playing it more aggressive as a region. So we should, in theory, be pushing our limits faster.
I guess that makes sense. I suppose maybe there's something, and again, this is all sort of speculative because we haven't been able to compete against each other, meaning like NA, EU, Korea,
actual lands, yeah.
And we won't, I guess, for a while.
Yeah, first Masters is online guaranteed. They already stated that. So
yeah, so I suppose it's all speculative, and of course, it's going to be a big NAU battle, as there always is in pretty much every big game. But it certainly seems, anyway, that the biggest organizations in the world tend to lean towards NA, and certainly the meta seems to be developing in NA usually. You know, I follow like a few people, of course, on Twitter, and I follow like Emil. You know, I don't know if you ever talked to Emil or not. Do you guys?
I haven't caught up with him since he's been on NIP. I talked to him when he got the job, congratulated him and such, and caught up a little bit then, but I haven't since. It's just, you know, it gets crazy.
I know how it is. Like, we haven't talked either. I know how it is.
Yeah, so don't know, but that's definitely one that I definitely want to. And I mean, but that's also one I'm so excited for Lance to come back, because that's, you know, yeah, exactly. It'd be great. Just like, hey, let's go drinking, let's go chill. It's like matches are over for the day. Just see how life's been, you know. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, you know, what I was trying to say was like, I don't know if you talked to email or not, but like I try to like follow EU coaches as well. I'm sure you do. And it seems like the EU teams are always copying NA metas. Is that true, or am I just
so there's a back and forth. I would say EU has copied NA metas, but the most copied has probably been FPX out of all teams. Because FPX is the team who has and for small things, Doom Bros is actually the analyst on that team. It's such a small world. I love it. I'm so happy for him too. It's so cool that they're both able to get those positions and work in the industry as brothers. But the thing about it is FPX is very good at set plays. So Korea excels at that well, but FPX was excelling at it ahead of time. Like their understanding of how to apply a brimstone ult as Overwatch or MOBA concepts, right? So instead of, oh, let's just do a default, let's smoke the site, let's flash the site, let's use utility to take the site. FPX was like, if we have brimstone ult, we press button, big red circle, half the site can't be controlled. Okay, let's just put utility on this right side and execute. So now we acquire ult, execute with that effectiveness, and now 3 or 4 rounds, we are guaranteed site. We are guaranteed the situation we want in terms of post plan, because we can get onto site. So they kind of were the first ones to push that really heavy execute ult style. And they kind of moved into Viper as well, post plants, messing with that kind of stuff. Because if you get Viper on site with a bomb down, she ults, or if she has Molly lineups, you know, you can have a lot of really strong stall, guarantee the position. So there's been back and forth. So I would say NA and EU have copied each other pretty healthily, but FPX definitely deserves a special shout out, because they have been the innovator of both regions. They've been definitely the most common innovator. Like,
that's newest. Yeah, I wasn't sure, because I know obviously the meta is a little bit different, and I suppose there's a little bit back and forth. I guess it's just me not being knowledgeable. It's funny, yeah. I forgot Doom Bros is their coach as well. It's crazy how many like of the Gladiators Legion family is doing so well now.
Despite it's awesome to see.
Not being worth the money, you know. It's how it goes. I'll just leave it there, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's interesting to me how in every game different regions come out to be strong and weak, and which regions develop for which reasons. You know, I'm curious really about the Asian region, and specifically about the Korean region, Korean country, I guess, in Valorant. Like you bring up the Korean region kind of being weaker than NA or EU. I don't have to tell you, but for the sake of alliteration for the fans watching the podcast, in Overwatch, it was completely opposite. It's like Korea is the significantly 100%. Most dominant region. Like it's like 80% of the league now. What do you think is the difference between a game like Overwatch and a game like Valorant, and how come Korea hasn't kept up so far?
I'd say it's experience, and again, the distinction is important, that they're like Vision Strikers is at the same level. Like there's no doubt they are a world team. They would compete in NA and EU, potentially win it all. Vision Strikers, similar to FPX, a team that I've studied a lot to look at executes, look at strats, and kind of take some ideas and really augment what we're doing. It's just that as you start to move down the rankings, the tactical shooter experience, or at least like what they're doing, is just not anywhere near the same threshold that Vision Strikers or even Absolute Jupiter, the top Japanese team, is. And so as a result, it just starts to get kind of lower and lower quality. Now they're not, obviously they're good players, you know, even have I forget the name of the team, but Bunny's playing on it, and a couple other like Korean streamers. They were able to make like top 4 in the event. But like that kind of proof of concept, when a stream team is a top 4 in a region, that probably means that the region is lacking that developed talent. But like you'd said, I fully anticipate that within the year, even if it takes max time, a year and a half, Koreans will catch up and will be equally competitive at the T1, T2, T3 level. Because right now it's tier 1 Korean team, Vision Strikers, is competitive across the board, but tier 2, not competitive, right? So as you move down, the competitive level is going to drop between regions, and that will change, right? Because naturally, it's a Riot game. Koreans love Riot. League of Legends is incredibly popular in the culture. I mean, we got to visit a lot of the stuff out there in Korea, and it was really cool to see like they actually, the full studios, it's a really big part of it. And so when that starts to integrate, there's no question that they're going to catch up. So it is just a matter of time and a question of, I guess, how do you say, enjoyment or desire to play the game over Overwatch, over League of Legends, and accessibility in PC bangs as well. Because I do believe that is still an issue, because Vanguard is still a root level anti-cheat.
That makes sense.
And PC bangs, I don't know if they have fixed the issue where PC bangs, like the scripts that they run for just in general for programs and keeping the computers together for everyone to use, those violate a lot of the code lines in Vanguard. So
yeah, I wonder. I have a feeling though that Riot must know about this. Like, I forgot
it was
about,
a big issue.
And they obviously know like the popularity of League of Legends in South Korea. So like at PC bangs and stuff. So I'm curious how they'll go about sort of supporting Valorant being played in PC bangs in Korea. Obviously this year also it's sort of a double whammy, because it's not like most people are even playing at PC cafes right now.
No, it's true. It's been how home PCs for
South Korea, everybody was locked down for 6+ months. So like, yeah, I mean, maybe that's a huge factor too, because definitely the PC cafe, I mean, you know as well as I do, the PC cafe sort of culture in South Korea is what breeds a lot of esports talent. So yeah, maybe once things go back to normal, and also the game becomes more popular in PC cafes, maybe more talent will develop.
The most popular FPS in Korea was really Crossfire before Overwatch. And although Crossfire does have tactical elements, it is not Counter-Strike, right? At the end of the day, Counter-Strike is its own breed, and Valorant is trying to be a spiritual successor or a spiritual, brother, sister, whatever, to Counter-Strike. So the Crossfire players have transitioned, and Vision Strikers was the top Counter-Strike Korean team as well. So there is a lot of like,
had a very easy transition.
Exactly. They're just playing strong Counter-Strike default executes, and they're playing the game, and everyone else is catching up.
Yeah. I suppose really the difference with that region is that in the Asian region in general, is the lack of tactical shooter interest or experience, because they've been playing MOBAs for 10 years, mostly.
Yep.
And I guess like in NA and EU, obviously in EU with Counter-Strike, you have tons of tactical shooter experience and FPS like experience. So yeah, it's just interesting. I wonder how it'll shake out. I think like I also have a feeling that even if EU might generate the best talent in the world, like I could see a world where like EU could have the top 3 teams in the world, but not have the most top 20 teams, if that makes sense. Like not have most talent, just because now of all the big organizations being in NA, right?
It's also I think you kind of are getting at this, but the structure in the culture as well. I mean, we saw that when we were out there, every single Korean team we scrimmed, no matter whether they were, runaway or they were a top tier 2 team, they were structured. They were there with a goal to practice. Like, it's stuff that I pride myself on our team pushing, but you just don't see that in a lot in Western culture. Is like, when I say we play for fun, we still have a goal. We're still practicing something. But people will say, "Oh, we're practicing 8 hours a day. We're really grinding hard." But what are you accomplishing, right? Whereas in Korea, it's like, we're going to grind 8 hours a day, but we're going to grind 8 hours a day with a purpose, and you're going to have a goal, and you're going to learn, right? So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Well, what's going on with Moon Raccoons, man? Are you guys going to get signed or not?
I mean, as far as I can say publicly, it's definitely our goal. We've had a lot of people we're talking to. Obviously, we put ourselves in a very good position, and we're trying to be responsible and be adults about it, and kind of work through what we have. We're working with our agency, and it's something that we really want, but also something that we really have tried to be smart about is making sure that we approach it that benefits the whole, right? We don't want to just sign immediately for whatever paycheck and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that got us a home, right? We want to make sure it's the right home. There's these kind of balances, and also at the same time, our goals are to be a top Valorant team. So we feel like, while obviously our goal is to get an org, and that is 100% a part of the process, a lot of our focus has been, let's really like the identity of the team, the culture of the team, these kinds of things, because no matter what happens, what kind of org it is, what kind of salary it is, what kind of situation it is, doesn't matter. If those goals are really bought into and strongly a part of the team culture, then we're going to be winning irregardless. And that's been the case, right? Like the only reason we weren't in first strike was because we lost to 100 Thieves in the first qualifier and TSM in the second. Those were the finals teams. In a different world where we had slightly different matches earlier on, we're playing in first strike without any questions. So,
yeah. What's your outlook for this weekend, brother?
I mean, the big thing is because at this point, by the time this comes up, we'll be out of groups. So our big focus right now is just to continue looking onto challengers, working in scrims, customs, dealing with what comes, kind of what you brought up, working with the org stuff, trying to get that figured out. That's kind of, we're just on the consistent grind, but the main focus right now is challengers and kind of to the culture of the team. Even though that is the main focus and that is the main goal is challengers, kind of our goals are always the next step. I always try to preach as a coach, like my job is to make you guys the best people you can be, not just the best players, right? So we're kind of focused on being the best at the game that we can be, learning it, vibing out within the servers so that the players know how to operate with each other, these kinds of things. So there's a lot of just kind of keeping the nose to the ground and focus on the process rather than too much like what we want or what we need or any of these things. Because at the end of the day, if you take it step by step, right, it's a lot easier to digest. And also you just put yourself in a better position. You're always in motion. So that's kind of how we've been approaching it. That's the goal. But yeah, long term, we really want to make sure that we do well in challengers and get into masters. That's definitely like our long term goal right now. Is we want to be in the first masters. We want to be playing in it, and ultimately our long term goal is all of us would love to build a dynasty. We really would like to be one of the top teams in North America. We don't have to win every event. We'd love to win every event, but at the end of the day, we just want to be a top team. We want to always be bringing competitive matches. We want to show the best Valorant that can be played. And, if we can do that every single tournament, that's what we want, right? We value consistency a lot more over one tournament win.
Yeah, I respect the process, brother. I really do. And I feel like, it's really important for teams like yours to come out and talk like this, because I think a lot of organizations don't really get to see you guys, see the process behind the tournaments. They don't really get to see the preparation, the mindset, the teamwork. They just see the results. Mm-hmm. And that's like one of the main reasons I want to talk to you, man. Is I
really appreciate it.
Because I know you, but I know people don't know you, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to share what I already knew. And yeah, definitely. Then it's all about.
I really appreciate it. And being on here has been awesome, and it's been amazing catching up with you, because I know the grind you've been putting in Triumph has been amazing. I've been watching along the side, and it's just been great to catch up with you too, and kind of have the different perspective, but the conversation be the same as it was in Korea when we were talking about this stuff. It's things change, but they don't. No matter how much time goes by, some things are still good, same.
It's so crazy that like back in that December before we got dropped, you and I both thought we were going to go to Overwatch League for sure.
Yeah, that was.
It's so crazy how life changes so quickly.
Yeah, it really does. Because I was dead set on it. I was like, well, look what we've done. We made it to Gauntlet, everything we've accomplished as a roster, and it's like, well, by the way, all the contenders teams are getting dropped. So smile, good luck. It's like, oh, well, life changes.
The good thing is that at least everybody on our team kind of went and did something better.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true.
Everybody's accounted for. You know what I mean? Something.
No, it's very true.
Well, except for Stand One, he's on Boston though, so I don't know what's gonna happen.
No, I mean he got to be on Shanghai for what, the second place. They were second place last year on their run. So yeah, I mean, and he had I watched a couple of games. He had some he had some really good Roadhog games. Like I know he's getting called out for being one of the better Roadhogs in the league. So I was really happy to see that.
Yeah,
but Boston is not.
When he got announced to Boston, I had to message him in over a year, and I said, "Hey, scary," and he just laughed.
Oh, he's probably laughing too.
I'm glad to see you thriving, man. I'm going to be watching Moon Raccoons this weekend, honestly. It's been a blast watching you guys kind of rise to power in NA, and I wish you guys the best of luck. I really do. And it's really fucking good to catch up with you, brother. And hopefully one day we can actually catch up, in person.
No, hell yeah. No, it's coming here soon. I really feel it. And again, same, man. And I really appreciate you having me on. And I really feel the same. I'm really happy to see everything you've been doing with Triumph, and happy that you've been able to get into a position where I know you really like to be a part of the process of building and really like creating it. And it's really shown. And it's really good to see you and catch up. And yeah, no, I can't agree more, man. As soon as lands are back and we actually get to travel and stuff, it's going to be a great time. Esports has been missing it for a year and a half now almost. So yeah, it's been too long.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch up soon, man. Thank you. And I appreciate your time today. I know you guys have to get to work, so I'll let you go. But anything you want to leave us with before the end of the episode?
Nothing I can really think of. Sign Moon Raccoons. Hashtag sign Moon Raccoons. Keep that trending. But otherwise, no, man, I really appreciate it, and definitely hope to down the line catch back up again, do one of these again or something, and just keep it going. So thank you again.